Hi guys, today we will see how to install and configure uh, Active Directory, Windows Active Directory in Server 2019. So for that, first what we will do to do this is our server. Okay, so this is basically here it is configured as DHCP, but before installing Windows 2019 Active Directory server, domain controller or server, we have to configure the static IP in the domain controller. Okay. So first thing first, and the hostname also we have to configure, because now the hostname, if you see, it is showing randomly generated hostname, I believe. So what is the hostname? It is after installation it has taken a random hostname. So we will install the and we will configure the IP address as well as the hostname of the uh, of this server. Okay, so start run ncpa.cpl. This 172.17.16.0 network. So we will install here and configure the IP address. We will set 255.17.16.1. Okay, so DNS need not to be given here. Now let's check whether it is communicating with host machines or not. Yeah, it is pinging. So it has been started. It has started communicating with host server, host machine. Okay. So because we have installed our server 2019 in uh, hypervisor. So now we will set the host name. So let's set the host name as server. It is DC1. So DC1 dot the domain we will configure is TechLab. Say so DC1 is the host. Okay, so we can say as it is a server 2019. So server 2019 underscore DC1. Okay. Now it will be restarted. It will take some time to get it restarted. Just a minute. So today we will show how to install Windows Active Directory on Server 2019 step by step, and we will install DNS server in the same server 2019, because we do not have right now. We do not. We are going to install the first server here in the domain controller, and there is no DNS server already configured. So we will install the DNS server as well as the domain controller in the same server. Okay. For domain controller, uh, here I have taken as the memory of the server as 8 GB, and the core processor server I have taken. So now we will add the role. Okay, so let's see which role we should select for installing DNS server as well as domain controller. So next, click on next. This is the server where I am going to install domain controller. So here, Active Directory domain service. I need to wait, it is not getting updated. Yeah, Active Directory domain service. I need to install these features and DNS server. I need to install this feature. Okay, so click on next. The other options we will discuss later. First, we will install the domain controller. For installing domain controller, only the two services required. Okay, click on next. Click on Azure. You see that the group policy management is by default installed when you have checked on Active Directory domain service, because group policy we have to configure accordingly as per your requirement of the organization. Next, 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 and install. So it will take us some time to get it installed in this server. We have to wait for it. As I told already that I have taken the configuration of the server as 8 GB RAM. So in a practical scenario, you have to take at least 32 GB RAM and 4 core processor at least, so that it will be properly installed with minimum time. Okay. So here also, as because this server is a new server, newly installed server, and there is nothing in the server, no component, extra component is installed, so it will not, should not take much time. Okay, so we can see what is actually going to be installed here: activated domain service, DNS server, group policy management, and remote server administration tools. Remote server administration tools means through the tools through which we can configure the or maintain the Active Directory. Okay, so it is already installed. Click on close. Okay, you can see here a yellow mark exclamation sign is appeared. Click on it. You will see post deployment configuration. Actually, what I have to do, I have to promote this server to a domain controller. So click on it. Only the component is installed, but it is not yet configured. So now it is showing add a domain controller to an existing domain. We will select this option if we have already any domain, but in our case we do not have any domain, even we do not have any forest also. So before creating a domain, a forest should be present. So we will select this option, add a new forest, because the second option, add a new domain to an existing forest, means the scenario will be like that: if there is a forest and you are going to be install, you are going to install a separate domain, means forest means a cumulative of different domain, that is forest. So different domain, there is no domain, so no forest even. So we will select and add a new forest. Okay, we will create a domain, that is techlab.com. Okay, so click on next. So we are going to install techlab.com. Okay, so it's forest functional level and domain functional level. There are two functional levels. So we will discuss on later on what is forest functional level, what is domain functional level. Now we are selecting as Windows Server 2019. You can see the latest functional level is Windows Server 2016 forest functional level as well as domain functional level. So we are selecting the latest one. Okay, then the global we will select domain name system server, because we will uh, uh, configure this domain controller as well as DNS server. The DNS server will be ensuring particular domains this domain controller only. So we are selecting this. If there is separate DNS server, then we need not to select this one. And the global catalog server. Global catalog server means it is the server where all the domain there are different directory partitions are there for Active Directory. So in global catalog server, all the active directory partitions are database are replicated in the global catalog server. And as it is the first domain controller of the forest, so it should be by default the global catalog server. Okay. So global catalog server means your entire Active Directory directory partition and everything will be available in the global catalog server. If you want to uh, define global catalog server, so you can say that the definition should be like that. A global catalog is a data storage source containing partial representations of objects found in multiple domain Active Directory domain service forest. A global catalog is stored on domain controllers specifically assigned as global catalog server. Okay, so that is the thing. Okay, so now we will set apart from those two items, we have to configure the DSRM password. That means directory service restore mode. Why it is required? Suppose you need to uh, your domain controller has been crashed, or your domain has been down. So you have to restore the domain controller, or you have to restore the or um, uh, you may do the restoration process from other domain controller, Active Directory domain controller, to newly installed domain controller. In that case, directory service restore mode password is required. So we will set a and it should be different from other means the main password you have set in the administrator password. It should be different from that administrator password, because it will not work. So you need to give a different password for that. So I am setting a different password there. Okay, next. So DNS delegation, specify DNS delegation options. The delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found, because this is a new server. There is no DNS server. So you cannot select DNS delegation. If there is any DNS server already installed in the domain controller, in the domain, so in that case you can select that create DNS delegation. Here, click on next. The NetBIOS name is automatically it will fetch the NetBIOS name. The domain name you have given techlab.com, so it should be techlab. Yeah, it is techlab. Okay, next. So these are the database folder where the domain controller is configured. The domain controller will be installed. So the Windows Sysvol is the folder where mainly the policy and all this domain controller related uh, files will be installed. Okay. Next. So what are you going to install? Configure this server, the first Active Directory domain controller in the new forest. The new domain is techlab.com. Advanced name techlab, forest function level 2016, domain function level. It's at a glance, this is the summary. Okay, it is a global catalog server, yes. It is a DNS server, yes. DNS delegation, no, because it is the first DNS server, so no need to deal with the DNS server. Database folder, Active Directory database folder will be installed on, will be kept on C Windows NTDS folder. Log file of the Active Directory will be stored in C Windows NTDS, and Sysvol folder. Here the policy and all these things of Active Domain Controller is will be stored here. DNS servers will be configured on this computer only. This computer will be configured to use DNS server as it is preferred DNS server. Okay, so the password of the new domain administrator will be the same as the password of the local administrator. Okay, so the domain controller's administrator password will be the same as the local built-in password. It will be by default. You can change later also. Okay, so click on next. So it will take some time to install the domain controller. So it will be our first domain controller. The domain name will be techlab.com. Okay, then after and the domain controller's total NetBIOS name, total name will be server 2019 underscore dc1 dot techlab.com. Fully qualified domain name will be like that. All prerequisite checks passed successfully. Click on install. So prerequisites, okay, install. So the Windows Server 2019 domain controllers have a default for the security settings name allowed cryptography algorithms compatible with Windows NT 4.0 that prevents weaker cryptography algorithms when establishing security channel sessions. A delegation for the DNS cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. So DNS delegation is because this is the first DNS and there is no authoritative zone is configured here. If you are integrating with an existing DNS infrastructure, you should manually create a DNS delegation to the server. Okay, so now it is configured. The domain controller is configured. We have to log in with domain administrator account. So it is click on close. Now it is restarting, and again we have to start and log in with that techlab.com domain controllers administrator account. Okay. The password will be same as built-in administrator account because we have not yet changed the password. It's taking some time because of hardware constraints. Okay. Practical scenario, if you take better hardware, then it will be faster. Okay. However, first time it is creating the computer settings as per the default domain controller, default domain policy. Now the prompt come, login prompt come, we will install, we will log in with administrator account of domain controller, built-in administrator account. So administrator, the password. So now it is installed and it is applying for the user policy now, default domain policy. So now it is created. One thing I have to do. So we have configured the domain controller, but we did not do the DNS configuration till now, because you know that there are two types of zone is two types of zones are required for a DNS server. One is forward lookup zone and one is reverse lookup zone. So forward lookup zones and we have to configure both the forward lookup zones and reverse lookup zones. Why? Because we need to configure the domain controller in such a way so that we can resolve the name to IP address and IP address to name. So what are the differences? Differences of forward lookup zones between forward lookup zones and reverse. Forward lookup zones are used to map a host name to IP address, and reverse lookup zones are used to map IP address to host name. So first let's configure the DNS. So here you can configure from this option also, or you can configure from this command also, dns mgmt.msc. Okay, so this is our DNS server. You can see forward lookup jobs. Click on forward lookup jobs and click on textlab.com is the domain name, and here is the when you install DNS server, by default forward lookup join is configured, and this is the host name and this is the IP address. But reverse lookup join, there is nothing. You have to configure reverse lookup join. So for that, right click on it, click on new zone. Next is a primary zone, because creates a copy of the zone that can be uploaded directly on this server. Okay, so next, what are the options? To all DNS servers running on domain controllers in the forest, techlab.com. Yes, we click this option only. To all DNS servers running on domain controllers in this domain, techlab.com, because this is the only DNS server in the forest, techlab.com. So we will select first, and this is for the. There are several DNS server, maybe some other DNS server also, but for techlab.com, this will be the only DNS server. In that case, we will select this one. And to all domain controllers in this domain for Windows 2000 compatibility. Say some domain controllers are Windows 2000, 2003, 2008, like that. For those domain controllers, if you create the DNS server, then you need to take this option. So in our case, we will select the first option, because this is the first DNS server of of the forest, and the domain as well as the domain techlab.com. So click on next. IPv4, because IPv6 we are not using IPv6 network, we are using IPv4 network. So IPv4 is reverse lookup zone. Okay, so we have to put the network here, 172.17.16 in our case. Click on next. Allow only secure dynamic updates recommended for Active Directory. This option is available only for Active Directory integrated jobs. And say this DNS server is only for the Active Directory configure. We are creating the DNS server only for the Active Directory, so we will select this one. Okay, so suppose some DNS server will be there where the Linux server and other server will be in the same domain. So in that case, we will select the second option, secure and non-secure dynamic updates. Okay, for secure dynamic updates means the host which belongs to this Active Directory only, those host records will be updated in this DNS server. Okay, click on next, finish. So you have seen this. This is the now you have to. This is the reverse lookup zone we have already configured in it. Now we have to create the host record. Okay, pointer record. Click on new pointer. We have to give the host IP address as 2, because of this domain controller, that is 2, and the host name is, you can browse it from here. You will select from forward lookup zone server 2019, it's called DC1. So this is the okay. So now it will be IP address to host name, it can resolve, and the forward lookup zone is for host name to IP address. Look at just check on forward lookup zone, host name to IP address, and here reverse lookup zone, IP address to host name. So now the DNS is configured. Just to check, open the command prompt and type nslookup just to resolve the host name. Your host name will be server 2019 _dc1 dot techlab.com. See, now it is what it is showing, it cannot resolve, and it has resolved the name to IP address, but it cannot resolve from IP address to name. So in that case, it has resolved from IP address to name, but name to IP address cannot resolve, because we have to do a small thing here. Go to ncpa.cpl, check what is the DNS server you are provided. The DNS server automatically it has taken 127.0.0.1. That means this loopback address it has taken. Okay, now. So we have to configure this DNS server address. Now check. See, it has resolved the query of hostname to IP address to hostname. So your domain and domain controller and DNS server is ready. Okay. So now click on tools. You will see different options. Active Directory Administration Center. Administrative Center means from where the Active Directory can be monitored, can be installed, can be configured, uh, and click on it. This is the Active Directory Administration Center. Okay, so the computers in the Active Directory, the domain controllers in the Active Directory, the infrastructure you can configure, and all these things. We will come in this option later. Okay, now click on the options again. Active Directory domain and trust. Suppose is in one forest there are different domain, and within the domain you have to create a trust relationship. Suppose a domain name a.com and a domain name b.com. So you have to make a trust relationship. That means the domain and users of A can authenticate to B. Users of B can authenticate to A. This is a trust relationship. So both the domain can trust each other. Both the domain's object can trust each other. So in that case, you have to create this Active Directory domain and trust. We will discuss later also in this. Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell. In Windows PowerShell, if you have to manage Active Directory, then you have to click this Windows PowerShell Active Directory. Okay, here some specific command which are required to administer Active Directory you can find. Active Directory sites and service. Sites and service means suppose different sites are there in Active Directory domain. So you need to replicate those different sites. So in that case, you have to select Active Directory sites and service. You can schedule the replications also. Okay, so in that case, you require the Active Directory sites. Different sites will be there, different domain will be there. So for that, different sites will be created, and between the domains, the replications to happen the replication, you need to click on this Active Directory sites and service. We will show like how it can be operated. And now our discussion is Active Directory users and computers. This one, this option we have to use now for installation, for creating user, for creating organizational unit, for creating computers like that. Okay, so you can open this window from clicking Active Directory users and computers, or you can there is a command like tsa.msc. You can create that also. You can type that also, and you can get the window, same window. Here you need to create different organizational unit. Why organizational unit is required? Say in your organization, maybe there are different uh, different department, and different department have their different requirement, and as per their requirement you need to create the policy also depending upon their the demand. So the policy will be varied uh, from different for different uh, organizational unit. So for that only you need to create first the organization. Here we will show two types of organizational unit. Okay, and we will create separate users in the each organization unit, and we will show how the domain policy can be implemented. So if you see the definition, an organization unit can refer to different things depending on the context, such as an organization group with a company intending to accomplish a specific business function. Okay, so create organization unit, say it is sales. Okay, and say one is is say IT, and one is say purchase. Okay, so three organization units we have created. So now in each organization unit we will create one user. So right click on the organization unit and create new, create user. So one user is user one. So the last name you can give, or the name will be user one at testlab.com. Okay, so the password, say you can set a password. User must change the password at next login. You will just unselect it, and password never expire. We will select here. Okay, we can change this password never expire option also by creating password policy also, that we will select next. Finish. So in IT there will be another user, user 2, or maybe, so just to distinguish. So techlab.com password. Finish. And the purchase, this is user 2, user 2, user 2. Three users, three different organizations, and three users are created. Okay, so now what we will do, we will create the domain default. Now we have default domain policy. We will configure the policy as per the requirement. Say we will take first two, you can say we will create an active directory. We can say policy is different. So what policy you can configure? You can configure for sales. There will be a separate um, now we will configure the different domain policy for different organizational unit. Say now suppose I have configured already one the domain policy, that is wallpaper policy for sales department. So just I will show you how I have configured it. Just a minute. So for that I need to give a command, that is gpmc.msc. Okay, so it will open a window for group policy management. Okay, see here I have configured a policy, that is wallpaper policy. How I will configure it? Like this, right click on it, create a GPO policy. I will show it in purchase. Okay, so right click on it. Now I am going to configure one desktop policy, desktop wallpaper policy for purchase department user. Okay, so purchase department I have to create a wallpaper policy, similar wallpaper policy. So wallpaper policy will be for purchase department. Okay, sorry, that is I have just delete it. Right click on it, create wallpaper policy. Okay, this policy is already created. So what I will do, uh, wallpaper purchase, I will create wallpaper purchase. Okay, so wallpaper purchase, here I will Mm, what I will do, I will edit it, edit, and what will the policy here? It is a user configuration based policy, no? Because one a user in sales department, it will for that user I have created one policy for wallpaper, and when that user will log in with his user ID and password, he will get a different wallpaper, and for purchase department, they will the user of purchase department, he will get a different wallpaper. So that is I am trying to show you. So go to desktop and again go to desktop. Here two part I have to do. One is enable active desktop, and the second is desktop wallpaper. Here click on enable, and you have to put the path. The path is 172.17.16.2, that is our active directory server. Wallpaper is the web is the path plus wallpaper. Okay, let's check the path where it is being shown. So go to server, just a minute, go to server, and here is the path. C drive, you can check the path from here also. You can check the path from this gpmc gpmc.msc. Just a minute, I'm showing you the path. Will be here is the path. Okay, so path will be like that. Just click on, I have already configured this path, so the path will be like that. Policy, administrative templates, desktop, desktop, desktop wallpaper. Here is the path I have mentioned, so copy this path only. Okay, this is the desktop wallpaper, the image file. Okay, so the I will select a different image file for a different organization units wallpaper policy. So click on edit on it, policy, administrator, desktop, desktop, disable wallpaper, desktop wallpaper, enable. You have to paste the path name. The path name will be like that. The wallpaper name is like that. So here is the .jpg file. Okay, so I have path, mentioned the path. Okay. So and enable active desktop should be enabled. Okay, now the policy is created. One thing I have to do, right click, as because the it is clicked check, the check is clicked in link enabled option, because this group policy is linked with this organizational unit, and it should be enforced also, because the default it will enforce the this wallpaper policy on purchase organization unit instead of default domain policy. Okay, so now we have to clear uh, implement the policy. For that, click on technical lab and gp update force. The entire policy will be, and the policy will be updated. So now I will show you the workstation. Let's move to workstation. See, this is the wallpaper for workstation 1 when we have logged in with user 1. Okay, the username is user 1. Just check the username. User is user 1. Okay, so now suppose I am going to sign out it and log in with user 2. Okay, before that what I have to do, I have to as I am implementing the policy and I am using the hypervisor, so the entire virtual host, they work on remote desktop protocol. So I have to enable in the user. I have to use the use the member means I have to the users in this domain should be the member of remote desktop users group. So let's check. So purchase, there is a user 2. The member should be member of only domain user it is showing. We have to add remote desktop, remote desktop, remote desktop users. So I have added into remote desktop users group also this user. So we before we have used remote desktop user, we have added it to remote desktop user group because otherwise it cannot take the remote session of the because it cannot be logged in into work group workstation 2 or workstation 1 because this user will work on remote user means remote desktop user protocol. So user 2, other user, user 2, user 2. Now just logged in with user 2. It should come with a different desktop wallpaper than the user 1 because user 1 the desktop is user 1's image was this one and user 2's image is this one. So it should come with this wallpaper. Let's see if the policy will be updated properly, then it should come with this wallpaper only. Yeah, so it worked. So you see, when it is logged in with user 2 desktop, user 2, then the desktop will be like that. And just sign out from it, just to make it clear. Sign out from it and go to user 1, other user 1. Dear 123 exclamation password. So now the wallpaper is different. So what we are going to show, a different user with different domain policy. The desktop wallpaper policy was different for both the users and the domain policy has been implemented. That's all today. Thank you.